Welcome to a concise tour of macroeconomics designed to fit into an hour. Over the next slides, we'll look at the core ideas that explain how economies work, how policymakers respond to shocks, and what drives long-term growth. Think of this as a roadmap. We'll outline key concepts, illustrate the main relationships with simple diagrams, and highlight practical policy trade-offs. This diagram shows the circular flow between households, firms, government, and the foreign sector, with money and goods moving in opposite directions. At its heart is the GDP identity. Output equals consumption, plus investment, plus government spending, plus net exports, and sustainable income depends on injections offsetting leakages like savings, taxes, and imports. It's a useful way to see where demand comes from. There are three ways to measure GDP. Production sums value added across stages, expenditure adds consumption, investment, government spending and net exports, and income tallies wages, rent, interest, and profits. Each approach has limits, from missing informal activity to ignoring environmental costs, so we adjust with real versus nominal measures and per capita comparisons to better track true output and living standards over time. Unemployment and inflation are distinct but connected challenges. Unemployment can be frictional, structural, or cyclical, and labor force participation tells us how many are engaged or detached from the job market. Inflation is measured with tools like the CPI and the GDP deflator, and we distinguish headline from core inflation because expectations, wage setting, and future price paths shape how persistent inflation becomes. Output is modeled as Y equals A, F, K, L, H, where physical capital, labor, and human capital combine with total factor productivity to produce GDP. The slide highlights that long-run growth depends less on piling up resources and more on technological progress, education, quality, sound institutions, and incentives for innovation, which together support sustained increases in efficiency and living standards. Shorter-run fluctuations arise when aggregate demand shifts due to changes in consumer confidence, investment outlook, fiscal stance, or net exports, and those shifts translate into output and employment changes. The multiplier process shows how an initial spending change increases income, spurs induced consumption, raises production, and generates additional income, magnifying the original impact on overall economic activity. Fiscal policy mixes active discretionary tools, like government purchases, tax adjustments, and transfers, with automatic stabilizers that react passively to the business cycle. Calibration matters because timing lags, crowding out risks, debt sustainability, and the distinction between cyclical and structural deficits all influence whether stimulus helps stabilize the economy or creates longer-term fiscal strain. Central banks use instruments such as policy rates, open market operations, and reserve requirements to influence interest rates, credit conditions, exchange rates, and expectations. Those transmission channels affect spending and inflation, but frameworks face challenges like the zero lower bound, the need for clear forward guidance, and maintaining credibility under changing economic conditions. Policymakers face a trilemma balancing growth, equity, and stability, and good macroeconomic governance requires three pillars: timely data-driven diagnostics to understand evolving conditions, institutional credibility to anchor expectations, and forward-looking guidance to anticipate future shifts. Monitoring releases and policy choices with a clear analytical lens helps translate these principles into actionable insights for better outcomes.